The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Chen sat across from the loan officer, his hands trembling slightly as he slid the application across the desk. This was it. His last chance. The officer picked up the papers and for a moment said nothing, just stared at the name. Marcus Chen. The silence stretched too long, uncomfortable, wrong. When the loan officer finally looked up, there was something in his eyes. Recognition, and something else Marcus couldn't quite place. "I remember you," the officer said quietly. Marcus's stomach dropped, but he didn't know why. Not yet. Marcus Chen woke up to 3 missed calls from his landlord, and an eviction notice slipped under his door. 30 days. That's all he had left. He sat on the edge of his mattress, the only furniture left in his studio apartment, and did the math again. Credit cards maxed out, car repossessed last month, his phone constantly buzzing with collection agencies he couldn't bear to answer. 32 years old, and this is what his life had become. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Marcus had been the guy in high school. Popular, confident, the one everyone wanted to be around. But somewhere between graduation and now, the world had stopped rewarding him for just showing up. The business ventures that failed, the investments that tanked, the girlfriend who left when the money dried up. Each mistake compounded the last, until he was drowning in a debt he couldn't see his way out of. His phone buzzed again. His mother. He silenced it. He couldn't face telling her how bad things had gotten. Not when she'd warned him. Not when she'd offered to help, and he'd been too proud to accept. Pride, that had always been his problem, but today, pride would have to wait. Today, he had an appointment at Pacific Trust Bank. A business loan. One last shot at turning it all around. He'd rehearsed his pitch 100 times. He had a solid business plan, or solid enough. He just needed someone to believe in him. He just needed a yes. Marcus showered in cold water. The hot had been shut off 2 weeks ago, and put on his only remaining suit. It didn't fit quite right anymore. He'd lost weight. Stress had a way of doing that. As he walked to the bus stop, no car, remember, he allowed himself to imagine it. The approval, the fresh start, the look on everyone's face when he proved them all wrong. He could do this. He had to. At 2:47 p.m., Marcus Chen walked through the glass doors of Pacific Trust Bank. His future balanced on a knife's edge. He gave his name to the receptionist, waited, tried to control his breathing. "Mr. Chen, Mr. Park will see you now." Marcus stood, straightened his tie, and walked toward the office at the end of the hall. He had no idea he was walking toward his past. Marcus Chen had always been small for his age. In 7th grade, that mattered. It mattered when Tyler Bennett pushed him into lockers. It mattered when the girls giggled as he walked by. It mattered when his father looked at him with that disappointed expression that said more than words ever could. "Stand up for yourself," his father would say. "Nobody respects a pushover." So Marcus learned not how to be strong, not really, but how to look strong, how to find someone smaller, someone quieter, someone who couldn't fight back. Daniel Park transferred to Jefferson Middle in October. Quiet kid, kept his head down, always had his nose in a book. The kind of kid who ate lunch alone and didn't seem to mind. The kind of kid who was perfect. It started small. A comment about Daniel's clothes. A accidental bump in the hallway. Testing the waters. Daniel never responded. Just took it and moved on. That's when Marcus knew. By 8th grade, Marcus had found his group. Tyler, Jason, Mike, the guys who decided who mattered and who didn't. And Marcus, no longer the small kid, had earned his place among them. Daniel Park was their entertainment. "Hey, Park, nice calculator. What are you, a robot?" Marcus would call out, his friends laughing on cue. Daniel would just adjust his glasses and keep walking. Never fought back, never told. Just absorbed it like he absorbed everything else, quietly, invisibly. Marcus's father noticed the change in him. More confident, more friends. "That's my boy," he'd said once, clapping him on the shoulder. It was the only time Marcus remembered him looking proud, so Marcus kept going. Kept proving he wasn't the weak one anymore. He never thought about what that made Daniel. In 9th grade, they went to the same high school. By then, the dynamic was set. Marcus was somebody. Daniel was nobody. That's just how it was, and that's when the lunch money started. It began innocently enough, or at least, that's what Marcus told himself. Sophomore year, 2nd week of school, Marcus saw Daniel in the lunch line, wallet in hand. Just a joke, he thought. Just messing around. "Hey Park, let me borrow $5. Daniel looked up, uncertain. I need it for lunch. Come on man, I'll pay you back." Marcus smiled. His friends were watching. Daniel hesitated, then handed over a $5 bill. Marcus never paid him back. The next week, it was $10, then $20. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, Daniel would be at his locker, and Marcus would appear with his hand out. "Lunch money, Park." Sometimes Daniel resisted. "I don't have any." Marcus would open Daniel's wallet himself. "Looks like you do." The worst part, Daniel never told anyone. Not the teachers, not his parents. He just took it, week after week, month after month. Marcus didn't think about where Daniel was getting the money. Didn't think about whether Daniel was eating. Didn't think about much at all, except that it made his friends laugh, and it made him feel powerful, and power felt good. Junior year, Daniel started losing weight. He looked tired all the time. Dark circles under his eyes. But Marcus barely noticed. He was too busy enjoying his reign at the top of the social ladder. The breaking point came in March of their junior year. Daniel was at his locker, and Marcus approached as usual. But this time, Daniel's hands were shaking as he opened his wallet. "I can't today, Marcus. My mum, she's sick. I need this for her prescription copay." Marcus's friends were watching. Tyler was grinning, waiting to see what would happen. If Marcus backed down now, he'd look weak, and weakness was unacceptable. "Not my problem, Park." Marcus took the money, $43, everything Daniel had. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Actual tears. But he didn't cry. Just closed his locker and walked away. Marcus felt something then. A flicker of guilt. Of recognition that maybe he'd gone too far. But Tyler slapped him on the back. "Dude, you're savage." And everyone laughed. So Marcus laughed too. And the feeling passed. What Marcus didn't see, Daniel sitting in his car after school, gripping the steering wheel, trying to figure out how to explain to his mother why he couldn't help with the medication. The humiliation burning through him like acid. What Marcus didn't see, Daniel making a decision that day that he would never be powerless again. That he would work harder than anyone. That he would become someone who couldn't be pushed around. What Marcus didn't see, the cost of his cruelty. Senior year, the lunch money continued. But Daniel had changed. He didn't shake anymore. Didn't show emotion. Just handed over the money like a transaction and walked away. Marcus sometimes wondered where the fight had gone. Part of him missed it. The resistance had made it feel more like a game. Now it just felt like taking. But he never stopped. Graduation came. Marcus gave a speech at the senior assembly. He'd been voted class president. Talked about friendship and memories and the future. Daniel Park sat in the back row, watching, remembering. They never spoke after that day. Different colleges, different lives, different trajectories. Marcus assumed he'd never see Daniel Park again. He was wrong. Daniel stared at the application. The numbers blurred in front of him. $60,000. That's what Marcus was asking for. Another business venture, another chance. Daniel had the authority to approve or deny. No one would question his decision. He could end this right now. Could watch Marcus's face crumble. Could say, "Not my problem," and taste the justice of it. God, how easy it would be. Marcus was speaking, but Daniel barely heard him. Something about learning from mistakes, about being different now. The words desperate people always say when they need something. Daniel thought about that kid at the locker. Hungry, humiliated, helpless. He thought about the 3 jobs he'd worked. The nights studying until his eyes burned. The therapy sessions where he'd cried about feeling worthless. He thought about his mother, who'd gone without medication because her son had been too ashamed to tell her why he didn't have the money. This man sitting across from him now, sweating and desperate, had done that. Had taken and never looked back. Had laughed about it with his friends. And now he was asking for mercy. Daniel opened his desk drawer, pulled out a calculator, started running the numbers on Marcus's application. The credit score was bad. Really bad. The business plan was optimistic at best. The collateral insufficient. On paper, this was an easy denial. Marcus Chen was a terrible risk. Daniel could deny it and sleep perfectly well. It would be the right business decision. But that wasn't really what this was about, was it? "Tell me something, Marcus," Daniel said, not looking up from the papers. "In all these years, did you ever think about me?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Honestly, no. Not until right now. And I hate myself for that." At least, he was honest. "Do you know what the worst part was?" Daniel asked. "It wasn't the money. It was the invisibility. You looked right through me like I wasn't even human. Like I was just ... there. For your entertainment. For your ego. I know. Do you? Because I spent years thinking there was something wrong with me. That I deserved it somehow. That I was less than you because you said I was." Marcus's eyes were red now. Maybe tears. Maybe just stress. Daniel didn't care. "I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college," Daniel continued. "I ate ramen for years. I still have nightmares about not having enough money. You did that. Your joke did that. I'm sorry." Marcus's voice broke. "I am so sorry. I can't. I know sorry isn't enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I mean it." Daniel believed him. That was the thing. He actually believed Marcus was sorry now. Now that he'd suffered. Now that he knew what it felt like to be desperate. But was that enough? The clock on the wall ticked. Daniel had to make a choice. He could deny the loan. Watch Marcus leave with nothing. Taste the satisfaction of revenge. The universe would be balanced. Marcus would feel what Daniel had felt. Or he could be better than Marcus had been. Could show mercy where none had been shown to him. Could break the cycle. But why should he? Why should he be the bigger person? Why should Marcus get a pass when Daniel never had? Daniel closed his eyes. Thought about his therapist's words. Holding onto anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But this wasn't just anger. This was justice, wasn't it? Daniel opened his eyes. Looked at Marcus really. Looked at him. Saw not the confident bully from high school, but a broken man who'd made every wrong choice possible. who'd hit bottom and was clawing for anything to hold on to, saw himself, in a way, different circumstances, same desperation. Daniel picked up his stamp. Marcus held his breath. Your application is denied. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus's face went white. Please, please, Daniel. I'm begging you. I'll lose everything. I know. Daniel's voice was steady. But based on your credit history, your debt-to-income ratio, and your track record with previous businesses, you're not a viable candidate for this loan. I'd be doing you a disservice by approving it. You're doing this because of high school. Because I was a terrible person. No, and Daniel meant it. I'm doing this because you're not ready. This loan wouldn't save you, Marcus. It would just delay the inevitable. You'd fail again, and you'd be even deeper in debt. Marcus stood up, hands shaking. So that's it, you're just going to let me drown? I'm not letting you do anything. You made your choices. And now you're living with the consequences. Daniel paused, just like I had to. Marcus stared at him, realization dawning. You wanted me to know how it feels. No, Daniel said quietly. I wanted you to understand. There's a difference. Daniel pulled out a business card, slid it across the desk. This is a credit counselor. She's excellent. She can help you negotiate with your creditors, set up a payment plan, get you back on your feet properly. Not a band-aid, real help. Marcus looked at the card like it was a foreign object. And this, Daniel pulled out another card, is a job posting. Entry level, but it's honest work. A friend of mine runs the company. I can put in a word if you're interested. Why? Marcus's voice was raw. Why would you help me after everything? Daniel stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. All those people, living their lives, carrying their own wounds and regrets. Because someone helped me once, Daniel said. When I was at my lowest, they didn't have to. They barely knew me. But they saw me struggling, and they helped. He turned back to Marcus. And because I refused to become the person who made my life hell, I refused to let your cruelty turn me cruel. Marcus was crying now. Really crying. I don't deserve this. No, Daniel agreed. You don't, but maybe that's the point. Maybe mercy isn't about what people deserve. Maybe it's about who we choose to be when we have the power to hurt someone back. Daniel walked to the door, opened it. The loan is denied, Marcus, but you're not. You can rebuild. It'll be hard. It'll take years. But you can do it if you're willing to do the work. Marcus stood, clutching the two business cards like lifelines. Started to leave. Stopped. Daniel, thank you. And I'm sorry. Really sorry. Daniel nodded. I know. Now go prove it. The summer after graduation, Daniel Park worked 3 jobs. Mornings at a coffee shop. Afternoons at a tutoring center. Nights doing data entry remotely. He saved every penny. College wasn't easy. State school, no family money to fall back on. His mother's medical bills ate through what little savings they had. But Daniel worked, studied, excelled. Finance major, not because he loved money, but because he understood something fundamental. Money was power, and he'd spent too many years powerless. He graduated summa cum laude, got a job as a bank teller, then loans officer assistant, then junior analyst, worked his way up one painful rung at a time, while watching people with connections and charisma leap past him. But Daniel was patient and persistent, and he never forgot what desperation felt like. At night, he went to therapy, talked about the anger he carried, the shame. The therapist asked if he'd ever confronted Marcus. What would be the point? Daniel said he wouldn't even remember, but Daniel remembered. Every dollar, every humiliation, Every day he went hungry so Marcus could buy a burger. By 30, Daniel Park was a senior loan officer at Pacific Trust Bank. Respected, successful, self-made, but still, in quiet moments, he was that kid at the locker. Helpless, invisible. Some wounds don't heal. They just scar over. The summer after graduation, Marcus Chen partied. He'd gotten into a decent college on his father's connections. Business major, why not? He was good with people. That had to count for something. College was a blur of fraternity parties and easy grades. He graduated with a C+ average and a sense that the world owed him something. First job, sales at his uncle's real estate firm. He was good at first, charismatic. People liked him. But when the market shifted and actual work was required, Marcus floundered. He bounced between jobs, each one promising to be the one, each one ending in disappointment or termination. At 25, he started his first business, a nightclub, borrowed money from friends and family. It failed within a year. At 27, he tried again. A tech startup, more borrowed money, more promises. It lasted 8 months. The pattern repeated. Each failure eating away at his savings, his relationships, his self-respect. But Marcus always had an excuse. The market crashed. His partner screwed him over. The timing was wrong. Never. I made a mistake. I wasn't prepared. I need help. Pride. Always pride. His father stopped taking his calls after the third failed business. His mother tried to help, but Marcus pushed her away. He couldn't stand the pity in her eyes. By 32, Marcus Chen was alone, broke, running out of options. But still, some part of him believed he deserved better. That the world had been unfair to him. That if people just gave him a chance, he'd prove them all wrong. He'd forgotten what he'd taken from others when he had power. Forgotten that power was a responsibility, not a right. Forgotten Daniel Park entirely, until the day they met again. Daniel Park saw the name on the application before the man walked in. Marcus Chen, it couldn't be. Could it? How many Marcus Chens were there in the city? But when the door opened and the man walked in, older, thinner, worn down, but still recognizable, Daniel knew. Time stopped, then sped up, then stopped again. 15 years collapsed into a single moment. The locker, the wallet, the humiliation, the tears he'd never let fall. All of it rushing back like a flood. Marcus hadn't recognized him yet. Was rambling about his business plan, his vision, his last chance. The words washed over Daniel like white noise. All Daniel could see was that teenager. Hand out, smiling, taking. I remember you, Daniel heard himself say. Marcus stopped mid-sentence. I'm sorry. Jefferson Middle School. Jefferson High. I remember you, Marcus. Daniel watched as the recognition slowly dawned on Marcus's face. The color draining. The hands starting to shake. Daniel, Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Daniel Park. Silence, the power dynamic had shifted. Completely, irrevocably. Marcus was stammering now. Listen, about back then. I was a kid, a stupid kid. You took $43 from me once, Daniel said quietly. Do you remember that day? Marcus looked like he might be sick. I don't. I mean, it was so long ago, ... double quotes, March 14th, junior year. I needed that money for my mother's medication. You took it anyway. Daniel's voice was calm, eerily calm. Do you remember what you said when I told you I needed it? Daniel, please, not my problem, Park. Daniel smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Those were your exact words. The fluorescent lights hummed. In the distance, someone laughed. Life continuing normally while two men sat in the wreckage of the past. Marcus looked down at his hands. I was awful to you. I know that. I'm not that person anymore. Aren't you? I'm not. I swear. I've had a lot of time to think about the kind of person I was. I'm ashamed of it. If I could take it back, but you can't. Daniel picked up the loan application, looked at it, at the numbers that represented Marcus's last hope. This was it. The moment Daniel had fantasized about in his darkest times. The moment when he had the power and Marcus had nothing. Karma delivered on a silver platter. Marcus Chen left the bank that day with nothing and everything. No loan, no easy fix. But maybe, for the first time in his life, a real chance to become someone better. He called the credit counselor that evening. Started the long, humbling process of rebuilding. He took the entry-level job, showed up early, stayed late, proved himself slowly, painfully, honestly. It took 4 years to get out of debt. 6 years to rebuild his credit. 8 years before he could look at himself in the mirror without shame. He never forgot Daniel Park. Never forgot the mercy he'd been shown when he deserved none. And sometimes, late at night, he thought about high school. About the kid at the locker. About all the ways casual cruelty compounds into something darker. He thought about karma. How it's not just about punishment. Sometimes it's about being given the exact test you need to pass to become who you're meant to be. Daniel Park went home that night and didn't sleep. He kept seeing Marcus's face. The desperation, the tears. Part of him wondered if he'd made the right choice. If mercy was just another word for letting people off the hook. But then he remembered something his therapist had said. Healing isn't about letting the other person off the hook. It's about unhooking yourself from them. He'd unhooked himself that day. Finally, that angry kid at the locker was still there, somewhere inside him. But he didn't control the narrative anymore. Daniel controlled it now. And he'd chosen to write a different ending than the one he'd been given. Karma isn't always what we think it is. We imagine it as cosmic revenge, as justice delivered by the universe, as people getting exactly what they deserve. But maybe karma is more complicated than that. Maybe it's not about the punishment we receive, but about the person we become while we're receiving it. Marcus Chen got his karma. Not in the form of a denied loan, that was just business, but in the form of a mirror. Someone holding up everything he'd been and forcing him to see it clearly. Daniel Park got his karma too. Not revenge, something better. The power to choose who he wanted to be in his moment of power. Both men were changed by that meeting. Both men carried scars from their past. But only one of them learned that scars don't have to define us. They can remind us, teach us, make us more careful with others who are hurting. What goes around comes around. But it doesn't always come around the way we expect. Sometimes it comes around as an opportunity to be better, to break cycles, to choose mercy when we've been shown none. The question is, what do we do when it does? What would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story made you think, like and subscribe for more stories about the choices that define us. See you next time.